Does anyone remember that animated Hobbit movie from like the 70s? I remember when I was in 5th grade, my teacher showed that movie to my class. Good times. The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. So The War of the Rohirrim is a new anime film set in the continuity of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies, based off the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. This movie takes place 163 years before the events of The Lord of the Rings The Two Towers, in the realm of Rohan. The city of Edoras is being run by King Helm, but things get complicated when he kills another lord, whose son then swears revenge, and so the tension rises and it leads to war. Now, I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. I count the movie trilogy among the greatest films ever made. The Hobbit movies I enjoy, The Rings of Power I enjoy, even though that is a different franchise altogether. But I was still going into this movie going, alright, it's Lord of the Rings, so I'm automatically gonna like it. And honestly, I walked out going, it was okay, which is kind of baffling to me. The characters are awesome though. The main character of this movie is actually the king's daughter, Hera, voiced by Gaia Wise, and I thought she was actually pretty badass. She doesn't want to conform to tradition, meaning pretty much she just doesn't want to get married. She wants to be a warrior chick, you know, kind of like Eowyn. But she does prove herself throughout the movie, so I did end up rooting for her. Her father though, King Helm Hammerhand, who's voiced by Brian Cox, who's awesome. This dude's a beast. Cause I mean, you know, he's one of those big, strong, burly type kings. I just respect characters like that who have so much power, and they show it not just through their voice, but through their actions. I mean, come on, he kills a guy just by punching him once. That's actually what earns him the title King Helm Hammerhand. I think that's really cool, like them earning their last names like that, like Thor and Oakenshield, same type of thing. Let's go back to those ways. All this is to say that Helm is awesome. Now, Wolf is the one who swears revenge, and he is a dick. I thought it was a pretty good villain, because he does some pretty messed up shit in this movie, I'll be honest. To the point where I was like, you're not gonna go that far into dickdom, are you? Oh, yeah, you did. You just did that thing. Now I really want you to lose. He's one of those villains that really kind of descends into his madness. He can't be sated by one victory. He needs to win the entire war. I do enjoy watching villains like that. Now, getting to the movie. First off, I do want to give some praise to the animation because I've heard mixed things about it actually. Some people found it really choppy, and I could see where they're coming from, but honestly speaking, I thought the animation was pretty cool myself. I like how they mixed the 2D characters with 3D environments sometimes. It kind of made this world feel alive in its own unique way. I liked it. I mean, sometimes the animation in the characters themselves seemed a little jittery, sure. Maybe that's the style they were going for, I don't know. But like just sometimes my eyes had a little trouble keeping up with what was going on screen because the characters were moving kind of strangely. But other than that slight problem, I thought this movie was pretty cool to look at. And I mean, come on, this is Lord of the Rings here. The reason I love Lord of the Rings so much is because it's such an involved world with so much history and lore. It goes beyond just the story of Frodo Baggins or Bilbo Baggins. It's not just about the rings. In fact, rings are barely in this movie at all. There are kingdoms and there are wars and blood feuds just among themselves. So the fact that just one of those stories is being told, I found that interesting at first anyway. And I do mean at first anyway, because when it all comes down to it, I'm not exactly sure why this story needed to be told. I did look this up because I wasn't sure, but yeah, it is true. The production of this film was sped up because New Line Cinema didn't want to lose the rights to J.R.R. Tolkien's works. I did actually read that, and I was like, oh, well, alright, that kind of is a bummer. I mean, there's a lot of cool Lord of the Rings-ish stuff in this movie, it being a Lord of the Rings movie and all. And it's all cool to see, but I did feel like the story actually dragged on a little bit in context, because Lord of the Rings movies are not known for feeling short at all. This is actually the shortest Lord of the Rings movie that I've ever seen. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes long, but even in that, there were moments where I felt it was stretching. I was actually doing this a couple of times. I admit it, I didn't think I would be. This is Lord of the Rings. But I think it's because this movie's not really justifying its own existence. Like, I was watching this movie thinking, yeah, this is supposed to tell the story of the origin of Helm's Deep and how it came to be, but why do I need to know that exactly? I guess I just never really asked for it. I mean, I'm always down to return to Middle-earth, just as long as I have a good reason for it, you know? There are also quite a lot of needless callbacks to the Peter Jackson movies, like that one scene we saw at the end of the trailer with the orcs and the rings.
What does Mordor want with rings?
That was one scene in the movie. It didn't really have much to do with everything else going on. So I was like, why was that in there? Just for nostalgia bait? And enough things like that happened in the movie to bother me. I'm breaking my own heart by saying this stuff. I do have one big praise to sing about this movie, and that is its music. Stephen Gallagher wrote the score for it, and it is awesome. Cause yes, it does bring back those Howard Shore themes from the Peter Jackson films. The Rohan theme most prominently. You have the Ring theme a couple of times. You have Eowyn's theme because Miranda Otto actually did return to this movie to voice Eowyn. She's narrating the this whole thing, which is awesome, by the way. But aside from all that, Gallagher also wrote a theme for Hera, which I thought was great. It played enough times in the movie for me to grasp that yes, this is a new musical theme, and I dug it. I thought it was badass. So all sorts of props to the musical score in this film, because it deserves it. But in the end, The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, I enjoyed it enough while I was watching it, because I just love seeing this world of Middle-earth on the big screen, because it's been a while since that's happened. I'll always love the world of Middle-earth, and I'll always welcome it back to theaters. The characters are great, the animation is really cool, the music is badass, but the story in and of itself, it did seem to drag a little bit. Like, there was a point where I thought the story was over and the movie was gonna end, but then it goes on kind of like an Alien movie in that way, where like there's a whole nother epilogue fight that needs to happen next. That's really where I felt it the most. I was like, oh, okay, we're still going. What, we got another half an hour left of this? Now, granted, that last half hour was pretty cool, because that's where all the big climactic shit goes down. So yeah, fun to watch. I just really felt the runtime at that point, which again, sounds weird talking about a Lord of the Rings movie that way, since the preceding live action movies are at least 3.5 hours long each. So this is gonna sound weird when I say that I feel like those movies move faster than this one. They just have better pacing, I feel. But I would still watch this movie again. If for nothing else, hearing that big score coming from movie theater speakers is amazing. For The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, I will say, wait until this movie's at a matinee price, then go see it. I'll break it down for you like this. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, this is definitely worth seeing on the big screen. If you're not a Lord of the Rings fan, this is not gonna bring you over to it. You're not gonna be like, oh, this is what I've been missing all these years. That's not gonna happen, not with this movie. So, The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. Have you seen it yet? What are your thoughts on it? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!